You're listening to The Drew Yari Show.
That's the wine and diner with kings and queens.
You're looking at the man. You're listening to The Drew Yari Show.
Hey, what's going on, guys? Welcome to another episode of the Drew Yari Show. It is Thursday, like the show usually comes out at. I'm your host, Drew Yari. My co-host tonight is of the podcast The Garden of Doom, which you can find on Spreaker. He also has Shaheen on the show of Nuclear Heat Graphics. Welcome to the show, Jeff Lippman. What's going on, Jeff?
Hey, Drew. Thanks so much for having me on the show. I think it's funny how you say it. I also have Shaheen on the show. He is every bit as much the heartbeat of the show as I am. It's very much a joint effort. But just this once, we won't tell anyone. We'll keep it between us. That for tonight, I'm in charge.
Yeah, whatever you want, man. All right. So what's going on with you, man?
You know, I'm just enjoying this renaissance of my life in my 50s. I appreciate being invited on your show and being wanted. I've had some fun opportunities. I got to do a Frank and Gus with Anthony Missionary Thomas and on the Wrestling Soup Network. I had Kevin Castle on that you had recently on your show as well, and I had a show with him as well. It turned into two shows because of the length of time and then a Spreaker upload issue, but nevertheless, that was fun as well, and really enjoying doing the Garden of Doom, which is not wrestling related, but hopefully folks will check it out anyway, because we are talking about, well, I don't want to brag too much, but a lot of things that we talk about tend to have articles that are science and factually based come out days or weeks later, sort of validating the same things, but we talk about, all sorts of current events, myths, extraterrestrials, collective memories, and whatever, and some pop culture. So it's sort of a variety show of sorts. Hopefully it's different, but hope you give it a check out. But tonight, I guess we're here to talk about wrestling, right?
We're talking about wrestling. We could talk a little bit about fandom if you're interested, or you can throw in some pop culture. This show I don't limit it to just being a wrestling show, because I just talk about the shit I like, which wrestling being one of them. Movies, comics, anything like that. So anything else you want to throw in, off the fly, you're more than welcome to.
I appreciate that. Well, you introduced me kindly as your co-host, but I'm really your guest, so I will follow your lead, and I hope to be a decent dance partner. I will give you advance warning that if you want to talk about fandom, I'm not going to be of any help because I didn't see it. I've seen most of the DC movies, but I'm not a DC guy by any means.
I'm not really. I think at heart, I'm really a Marvel guy. But as far as DC goes, it's Batman all the way. I've said, and I'm not even kidding when I say this, my first memory in life is Batman. I remember I had to have been at least five or six, and I was in a daycare, or probably four or five. I was in a daycare, and the lady in the daycare had on Batman Returns, with Michelle Pfeiffer and Danny DeVito. So I'm not even kidding when I say this. My first memory in life is Batman. So that's how deep my love for Batman goes. And
wow.
As far as fandom goes, I didn't watch it. Well, here's the thing. I watched it, but I didn't watch all of it. I only watched it for the stuff that actually appealed more to me. For example, they had the news, they showed the new video games that they're doing, Gotham Knights, where you get to play as Nightwing, Red Hood, Tim Drake, Robin, and Batgirl. So that looks pretty cool. the Suicide Squad game, which looks pretty cool. Which Samoa Joe is actually doing the voice work for King Shark in the game.
I heard that. That's really cool.
Which I didn't know that, because I watched that trailer at least 2 to 3 times, and then come to find out it said Samoa Joe's doing the voice work, which I'm just like, I did not catch his voice at all. But that's pretty cool.
Yeah, that's a big weakness for me. I have a lot of trouble matching a voice without the face. Mm-hmm. So, I guess it's on this subject. I never understand why they cast big stars in like animated movies and CGIs unless they're little known properties. See, I just don't understand why they spend the money on Vin Diesel to be Groot or Brad Cooper to be Raccoon, Rocket Raccoon, and The Rock in Mona. I mean, if it's a Disney movie, it's probably going to be pretty well received. So I just don't get why they don't just save the money and get a regular voice actor. Again, unless it's like a little known story or you're a smaller studio and needs that name for marketing or whatnot. But I also feel the same way about live action movies, like with like the Da Vinci Code, like 1 billion people read that book, and if only 10% of them are going to see the movie, that's 100 million people. Why are you paying Tom Hanks in his ask?
Well, it's at the end of the day, it's all about bringing asses to seats. Going back to animated movies, Disney is always going to shell out, that Disney money to bring in these big name actors, like The Rock. That's why Guardians was such a success, because the main actors were at the time not that known and not really big actors. So you had kind of had to rely on someone like Bradley Cooper to just play a raccoon, or to just have Vin Diesel literally just say, "I am Groot" for a whole movie.
See, I understand why they thought that, but I also think the Guardians was so successful because it was so great and it was unexpected. I mean, I'm a Marvel guy, but I never really thought much of the Guardians of the Galaxy. But I saw the movie, I'm like, wow, that was awesome. And it wasn't because, it was Bradley Cooper's voice or Vin Diesel. And I think that most people felt the same way. So it really didn't matter who they had in there. But I don't know. I understand what you're saying, and I understand that sort of marketing 101, and you want to have the famous person on the talk shows, and that's who's going to get booked. The cartoon voice actor who nobody knows isn't going to be on Jimmy Fallon and Jimmy Kimmel and The View and Good Morning America. So that's probably worth their salary in advertising alone. So I mean that's the part that makes sense to me. So I guess I've sort of answered my own little conundrum.
Yeah, and I can see where you're coming from. Guardians wasn't just good because of Bradley Cooper. It was good because of everybody around it, and Bradley Cooper was just like, he was just what do you want to call it? Like a centerpiece. It was good because the story was good. I don't want to say relatable, but it kind of dealt with real life issues, like with Peter and his mom, that kind of tug at your heartstrings. It had good writing. Chris Pratt, that was his, coming out party. That is what put him in the forefront. His charm is what, brought people in. Zoe Saldana is what brought people in. Or no, not really brought people in, but it's what kind of swayed people into thinking, these guys are really doing a good job in this role. And then Bradley Cooper as, Rocket is it just made it even better. So.
Yeah, and the movie was just a lot of fun. It's actually sort of silly of me to be nitpicking on a movie that I have zero complaints with and that I enjoyed top to bottom and, can probably watch once a year and still enjoy it.
I mean, there's nothing wrong with nitpicking. I mean, even if you like something, there's nothing wrong with saying, I liked it, but maybe they should have done this. It's like with wrestling, which we're about to talk about. Even if a match is like really, really good, you could still say, but they could have done this. They could have said this. They could have done less of this, or they could have done more of this. So I mean, it's just human nature. Even if something's good, you still gotta critique it a little bit.
This is true. There's entire industries based on that very concept.
So, all right, we can start with NXT Takeover before we get into the actual show. Give me 1 second. Let me just pull up the match.
Sure.
Okay, NXT Takeover happened on Saturday at Full Sail. It was originally supposed to happen in Boston, but, COVID, like everything else.
Yep.
So let's look at... I mean, we don't have to go match by match. We can just kind of talk about the show as a whole if you want.
We can do whatever method you want. The first match I saw was Thatcher and Finn. I missed the 3-team tag team match. I'm not exactly sure why. I never went back to watch it again. All I know is that I thought that Oney Lorcan and Birch, they were my pick to win. I think that they would have been a great match against Imperium, and I thought that they sort of deserved it. And Breezango was sort of the joke team, but I guess there was a bigger plan in play as we learned later. But I can't really comment much on that match other than I picked the wrong team to win. I
picked what the hell is her name? Legado del Fantasma to win because I was kind of under the assumption of this faction they're doing. It seems like they want to make them into a thing, kind of like with Undisputed Era, where it's like we have all the gold, and we're king shit, blah blah blah. So I mean, I'm looking at the match time, 6 minutes and 52 seconds. Breezango won, which I'm not really against, but I don't know, I would have preferred if Phantasma won, but that was the pre-show. Yeah, the first match was Finn Balor and Timothy Thatcher. Good match. I mean, it was a perfect example of two different styles that worked. Finn Balor, he's a mat wrestler. He doesn't do a lot of flips, not as much as he used to. He's more of a mat wrestler. Quote unquote, storyteller. Mm-hmm. But yeah, he really brought it tonight. Timothy Thatcher, I like. I'm just a little confused as to what they're doing with him because he won that match against Matt Riddle, that Lions Den match, whatever you want to call it. And
yeah, that was one of my favorite matches of the year.
Oh yeah, great match. He beat him, and then ever since then he hasn't won. He hasn't really won any matches. I mean, he beat Oney Lorcan at Great American Bash, I believe.
Yeah.
Other than that, he hasn't really won any high-profile matches. So I'm confused as to what they're trying to do with him. But I mean, yeah, this is a good match. I like it a lot. It was a good way to start the show to get the crowd into the event.
I wasn't confused about Timothy Thatcher until that match. And that was another one, surprisingly, or not surprisingly, that I picked wrong. But I'm not upset that I was wrong because I was looking at it as Finn was basically a high-priced trainer, and he was going to be the guy that they could plug into any role in any feud. He could be heel or he could be face, but he was there to, get over newer faces. And I know that there's only 2 or 3 years between the two of them age-wise, but exposure-wise, it's different. So I thought Thatcher was going to win, and the match seemed more like a Thatcher match than a Finn match. But I'm not upset that Finn lost entirely because, I think that one of the things I liked about NXT a few months ago and earlier that I feel like they've been losing lately is they always had 8 or 10 people who you could see in any sort of high-profile picture. There was always a bunch of people around the top of the card. And then they started sort of moving to the main roster formula a little bit where there's one person challenging for the title and the other 30 people all of a sudden are not interested in being world champion or intercontinental champion or tag team champion, which never makes sense to me. I think it's just stupid. Even if they don't have a chance, that should be their spoken goal. And even if they get sidetracked by a feud. So I was glad to see Finn win because he can be plugged into anything like this 4-man match that they had to do accidentally, or not accidentally, unintentionally. But I was expecting Thatcher to win, and now I'm a little bit confused with why he thinks he should be in the North American title picture after losing, arguably the biggest match of his career on a Takeover. But yeah, that Thatcher versus Riddle match really sold me on, honestly, both guys. I just thought that was a terrific match because, Matt Riddle is a lot of people's sort of favorite. He was sort of like one of the indie darlings who stayed a darling in NXT. I never thought, too much of him. I mean, I see he's got a look and he's got some skills, but I don't much like his personality. But that match really won me over, and I've sort of been a fan of his ever since. But yeah, I'm with you. I'm confused about what's going to happen with Thatcher.
I think if he has a little bit more of a personality, that could help because, him in the ring is fine. Like he's very good in the ring. He's very stiff. He just needs a little bit of a personality. But with Finn, this match, and I feel odd for saying this. I forget how good Finn is. Like, let me try and think of a way to say this. So, ever since Finn has been in NXT, I don't want to say he's been floundering or like phoning it in, but it seems like they don't really have an end game with him. Like he's just there for a discount. Like he's there because he wants to wrestle and work with a lot of the younger guys, which is good because Finn has always struck me as he has that mentality of I want to wrestle with the better talent. And from what I was told, he volunteered to go to NXT, which makes sense. So, and Finn seems like he's too big to be on NXT, which is weird because he was on the main roster and he was one of their better guys, but it seemed like they didn't know what to do with him. So you put him on NXT, and it seems like they still don't know what to do with him. He's winning high profile feuds, but it doesn't seem like it's really amounting to much. And we'll get to next week, but just to close it up before we get to the next match, I'm glad Finn won this. And it just reminds me of how really good Finn is in the ring. But they need to put him in a more high profile spot than just the guy who's going to go out there and have the good matches, the best matches on the show. You know what I mean?
I absolutely know what you mean. And before we move off of that, if you don't mind, just one thing about Finn, it was interesting that you said he volunteered. I had heard that he requested to go back to NXT, which is, is just a question of degree for volunteer. So maybe that's why he sort of flounders, because maybe he doesn't exactly know what he wants to do or wants to be. Maybe he wasn't comfortable on the big stage or working the 300 days and having to especially bring it on Monday nights versus the other 5 nights a week was working. And, maybe he's just not that guy. Maybe he is the guy that 2 weekends a month is sort of where his energy level is. And, I don't know. As long as he didn't take a cut in pay, more power to him.
Yeah, exactly. I agree. Next match is the ladder match for the NXT North American Championship. By the way, Finn Balor and Timothy Thatcher was 13 minutes and 32 seconds. NXT North American Championship, the vacant North American Championship. Ladder match, Damian Priest defeated Bronson Reed, Cameron Grimes, Johnny Gargano, Velveteen Dream. The match is 21 minutes and 24 seconds. I picked Priest to win this, and obviously I'm happy that he won because of everybody in this match, he was the most over. He was. I had been saying this for weeks. It seemed like the match was made for him to win. Priest has really grown on me because when he first came in, I wasn't sold because he seemed very green to me. Like it was nothing about him screamed, "This is a star." But just over the course of the last couple of months, I see him as this is gonna seem kind of disrespectful. He looks like a man, like an actual like grown adult man. Like he even has the speaking voice for it. He looks like somebody that is legit. Like if a casual wrestling fan watches NXT and sees him, he goes, "Oh, that looks like somebody."
I agree with you. You never have to explain being.
Yellow.
Yeah, I'm here.
Okay, yeah, you cut up for a bit. Go ahead.
I think I was talking too close to the phone. Sorry.
It's fine.
Yeah, you never have to explain being a sizist to me because I am totally a sizist when it comes to professional wrestling. So I also picked Damian Priest to win, so I was happy that I finally got one right and I wasn't going to get shut out on my picks for the evening. I thought the match was clever. I didn't think it was spectacular, but I thought it was good, and the spot with Candice on Bronson Reed's back was really good, and there was some clever use of the ladders, and at some point Velveteen Dream got catapulted into the stratosphere or somewhere, and never to be seen again. But yeah, I thought it was a clever match. I was really afraid it was going to be Gargano, and I really didn't want it to be Gargano.
Oh yeah,
and it wasn't. So again, I was happy at the end. But yeah, I agree with you totally on Priest. He's a big guy. He's got a swagger. He's got a charisma. He's got a sort of a oozes cool. People say it's like Scott Hall. I think he's actually more like Kevin Nash in that sort of confident swagger, attitude, quippy line. I mean, I guess you could say Scott Hall because they're closer in size, and then maybe because Scott Hall played Razor Ramon, who was supposed to be Cuban and Latin, and Damian Priest.
Yeah, and he actually is Latin.
Right, yeah, he was Punishment Martinez before.
Mm-hmm.
But I could see it. Either one, they both. There's probably a reason that they were best friends anyway. So, but yeah, I think he's a guy who looks like a professional wrestler. He walks the walk, he talks the talk, and he's got the tats. I'm glad he won. And I thought that was the best match of the night for entertainment value.
Yeah, and usually with these multi-man ladder matches, multi-man anything, they can either be hit or miss. This was entertaining because everybody got to get their shit in. It didn't seem like there wasn't any clusterfuckery, if that makes any sense. I'm right there. I'm sorry?
Except Candice.
You know what? I wasn't a big fan of that spot because, I'm gonna channel my inner Jim Cornette. Women trying to come in and do spots on guys, it just doesn't look right. It's stupid. So, just my opinion. I wasn't a fan of the spot. Of the whole match, I wasn't a fan of that spot. Everything else, I was fine with.
Well, it's the Drew Yari show, so I assume people are tuning in for your opinion.
Yeah, but I'm just saying because people are. But and also I don't really give a fuck. Anyways, but yeah, Johnny Gargano. When Johnny Gargano was reaching the belt, I literally just said no. I yelled no, God no, just anyone but him. But yeah, I was happy when Priest came up and chokeslammed him and got the belt. I thought it was kind of funny when Velveteen Dream pretty much got thrown over the ramp, and I made a joke to Kevin Castle because Kevin Castle said, I'm just paraphrasing, Dream just pretty much getting launched, outside of the ring, and I said, yeah, to the Department of Registered Sex Offenders.
Well, it's your show, so your jokes. But
he said that's awful.
Yeah. So right. So you're getting chastised by one of the Godfathers. So there you go. I was terrified when Candice came down. I'm not a big fan of Gargano, period. I'm sure your audience, if they're not familiar with me, they've already figured that mystery out. Yeah. And I'm not really a big Candice fan either, and them as the power couple. I mean, sometimes it's but it doesn't do much for me. But I dreaded her coming down, and I think that was the drama. That was part of the story, and it worked because that made me afraid that he might win. But while I was dreading her coming down, I think that everything she did actually added, and I think it was actually executed well. So while I'm not a Johnny Gargano and Candice LeRae power couple fan, I think that they both did their jobs very well. And I always thought that Johnny was in this match for the, basically to be the ring general and to make sure things went right. And Cameron Grimes was pretty much in there for some comedy spots and to help Johnny make sure that the other people sort of were in the right spots and not messing up.
I really don't think Velveteen Dream should have been in this match. Just my opinion, because I know it's innocent, so proven guilty. I know, there really hasn't, Triple H, he said, we couldn't find anything, that stuck. So, we can't convict the guy if there's really no proof, but it's one of those things where it's you hear about it and you kind of just see him and you go, this gimmick's kind of creepy. He probably, if you're going to bring it back to television, fine. But don't put him in a big high profile match, automatically.
I guess it was their way of stating confidence in him. I guess, listen, I am of mixed mind on this, and I don't know if you know my background, and I don't really want to go into it too much because people don't need to know much about me unless they, there's nothing secret they can find out. But yeah, innocent until proven guilty, I think is pretty important. And there's been different information that I've gotten on, that I've heard from this, not gotten, I'm not a journalist, but I've heard that the police looked into it as well. And I also don't think that WWE does their own investigations internally. They probably hire a PI or an investigative firm or an investigator tied to their law firm or whatever that does investigations. And I don't know how deep or shallow they went, but I don't really have a problem with them putting him in the match. I would have had a problem if he won the match. Because if you're not going to cut him, use him. If he's a big-time guy, put him in a big-time match. But I did think that if he won, that would have been a mistake. That would have, I don't even want to say rewarding bad behavior, but, I don't know enough about it to say if he even put himself in the position to be considered bad behavior or if it was a total scam job. I mean, I've heard both versions, but it sounds like he was involved in something. So, caution is also, if you're going to stand up behind the guy, that makes sense. But, discretion is the better part of value, of bravery, and, caution and prudence are merited as well. So stand by your guy, put him in the important match, but don't put him, don't give him a title right away. Let's see how things ride out. He's taking this new heel turn. Let's see where this goes. Which, by the way, everyone on NXT seems to be a heel now. So I don't know what they're going to do with that. Yeah, definitely. Like we just saw on Wednesday night, but we'll get into that as soon as we're done with Takeover. But if he had won, I really think that would have been a big mistake. And I'm just under the belief that he probably shouldn't have been in this match. Is just how I feel. But and then after Damian Priest won, he celebrated by getting in a jacuzzi with two girls. Who I think women, not girls, women. Thank you, Jeff, for clarifying that for me. Yes. Women, not girls, women. Well, one was Brandy Lauren,
who's I think the ex-wife of Joey Janela. Yeah, which is how does that guy pull that kind of tail though? How does that guy pull that kind of tail? I don't get it.
Well, we could speculate. I'd rather not. The funny thing is, I've had some interactions with Joey Janela online and a brief one in person, and it's all been uniformly negative. He was sort of a dick in person unnecessarily, by the way. I guess I have to sort of tell what it was a bit. I was at StarCast, and I was actually helping Shaheen. He was a vendor there, so I had like a staff badge and all that. And so I was there all day doing my stuff, and the wrestlers were at their stations. But to be honest, the StarCast at Full Gear in Baltimore, it was a bust. So what if anyone told you different? They're lying. I mean, they might have gotten 300 or 400 people all day long. They definitely lost money on bringing in people like Sting and Muda and whatever, who were not there Friday, by the way. They were there the next day, and I cannot imagine the crowd was bigger the day after the pay-per-view. But anyway, so I was talking to a guy who was patronizing Shaheen's stand earlier, and there weren't a lot of customers. So, of course I recognized him, and he recognized me, and so we were shooting the breeze for a little bit, talking by the bar. And the reason why this is important is because there was no one else at the bar. And this was not a small bar. This is like a 20-foot long bar, because the facility that StarCast was in was a place where bands play. It was not a conference center. It was not an open room. It was 2 floors with a stage where a band would play, and we were up in sort of like what you would call the mezzanine. So it was a bar where people would go buy drinks, and a long bar. There was one bartender, no customers, me and one guy standing there. Not drinking, but, we're standing normal conversation distance from each other. Point is, there was 10 feet on either side of me, and 10 feet on the side of the other guy whose name I forgot. Joey Janela is, first of all, he's in full winter gear. His hood is up, but his hair is all sticking out. He's wearing, silly pants and whatever. And he's talking to all his friends. Orange Cassidy was there, and, the Best Friends, and Jimmy Havoc was still a persona grata, whatever the opposite of non-grata is. And he walks up to the bar and basically from behind shoulder bumps me, and is in my personal space, and his body is in contact with mine the entire time. Like, his arm is pushing against my arm with no reason. It's not like there was a crowd. There was no one to jostle between. I mean, so it was all for nothing. And I'm like, I turned and I looked at him, and I know who he is, and I know that people there see him, so I'm not going to say anything. I'm not that big a dick. And he doesn't even turn his head. And I'm just like, what a jerk. And so then, I don't know, a few weeks later, I was in an AEW fan Facebook group. And, people going, they go, this wrestler stinks, or this one is terrible. So I said, someone had posted by Joey Janela. I said something like Joey Janela stinks, or Joey Janela is trash, or whatever, in a Facebook fan group page. Well, he's in there. He's a member of the group. And he starts arguing with me, which is fine, but it's just weird. It's like, he's like offended. It's like, but what are you doing in a wrestling fan group? I mean, all we do is complain. Everyone knows that. Why are you there if you're going to be sensitive about it? But then he made some personal insults, which, were beyond like saying you're trash or you suck. If you said that, would have been fine. I mean, I'm a big boy. That's all right. And then I ran into him again, on Twitter, and it was like, he remembered me. He still said the same thing, and he made the same insult again. I'm like, oh boy. And so if I ever see that guy, because I'm a lot bigger than he is, which is not saying much, because he's a small guy. He's not small for a wrestler. He's relatively small for a human being. And I don't know. I mean, I'm in such bad shape after COVID that it'd probably be a terrible idea now. But, even, 11 months ago, it wouldn't have been a fair fight for him.
Well, he has me blocked on Twitter.
I don't even bother with him. Oh, the whole point of this is that, she's on Twitter too, and she's cool. She's nice. She's a nice woman.
Yeah,
Brandy. Anything like him.
Yeah, Brandy Lauren. She's a very beautiful woman. I'll just put it that way. Very beautiful.
But aside from that, she's cool. She's fine. She's fine to interact with. She's like a normal semi-celebrity person. She appreciates fans talking to her. She'll like things. She'll sometimes comment back. She's we don't talk a lot, obviously, but it's normal, small celebrity conversation that's generally pleasant and generally well received. So, I mean, she's fine, and he's the exact opposite. The other woman also, I think, is someone of some notoriety, but I forgot the name and I don't know who she is. But she's also someone that's sort of known to the wrestling community.
Yeah, I bet, because that's pretty much what they usually do with a lot of these, like, side, I guess, vignettes or whatever you want to call them. They'll just add like random local indie wrestlers or talent. But
Makes sense. People used to a gig economy. I mean, it makes sense. I just always assumed they just hired local actors.
Yeah, and then Triple H, for whatever reason, decided to join them, which I thought was kind of funny. But
that's.
But next match, which arguably probably the match of the weekend, Pat McAfee versus Adam Cole. Your thoughts?
I think Pat McAfee did a surprisingly good job. I mean, I think his promo the week before, a few days before, I think he knocked it out of the park. I think he's sadly better than 85 to 90% of actual professional wrestlers. I mean, I understand he's a professional speaker at this point, but he hasn't always been. I found it really interesting that he said that he's made $1 million in 7 industries and he'll make this the 8th. I thought that was a great line. I don't know what the 7 industries are. I mean, obviously he must mean, I guess he means podcasting, probably radio, NFL, obviously, but I'm not sure what the other 4 are. I think he played soccer or rugby or maybe both. But I'm really wondering what the other careers were, or if he was just exaggerating because, wrestling you round up. But yeah, I liked the match. I'm not a giant Adam Cole guy because I'm a sizist and he's not. But I thought the match was good, and I thought Cole had a win. If Cole didn't win, that would have been terrible. And the last thing I want to see is more of this feud, even though Pat McAfee did a great job, and, he probably could do justice to it again, but I don't really need to see him in a wrestling ring again. I've never liked celebrity matches, and I'm north of 50. So, I didn't even like Bam Bam Bigelow against Lawrence Taylor. I like the Tyson celebrity appearance, and there's been celebrity appearances there, okay, but the wrestlers never look good. They always come out of it looking bad, and that bothers me. There's no reason that Kevin Rodman should intimidate Randy Savage, or that Kirby Puckett should, stare down, whoever he stared down, probably 18 years ago already, or whenever it was that he and John Randall were doing a thing in WW, probably F then. I think that Kevin Lloyd did an okay job. Mongo was terrible. I just never like celebrity matches. I think it's not good for wrestling. I think it exposes it more than anything else.
Well, wrestling has already been exposed. Look, wrestling has already been exposed as for what people think it is, or for what people know it is. I kind of agree with you. Celebrity matches, if you have too many of them, then it becomes a problem. It's okay every now and then, because it's better to find the people that can actually go out there and actually do the work. Lawrence Taylor, I kind of disagree with you on Lawrence Taylor. Lawrence Taylor actually went out there and, he was able to work with Bigelow. It shouldn't have been a main event, though, but that's that's not here nor there. Tyson, I think, was used correctly because he didn't wrestle. He was a part of the match, but he didn't wrestle. He was, he was the special guest enforcer, referee, what do you call it. Karl Malone and Dennis Rodman was used correctly because it was more of they're going after each other rather than they're going after Hulk Hogan or DDP. And it was a tag match. This was fine. Pat McAfee trained with Rip Rogers, and Rip Rogers is, famous for, training, John Cena, Brock Lesnar, Batista, Shelton Benjamin, Randy Orton.
He's famous for being the Hustler.
Well, I don't really know too much about that, honestly. But he
was the Hustler, Rip Rogers.
Yeah, that's a little bit before my time, unfortunately. But I'm just going by what I know. But he trained Pat McAfee for about 2 weeks, And McAfee he went out there and did a great job. Like one spot in particular that I liked was when he did that swanton off the top rope, and let me explain why. A lot of these off the top rope, everybody conveniently standing around there waiting for the guy to drop, I hate those. Because it just seems like they don't really have a reason for standing there. They're literally just standing there waiting for somebody to fall down on them. And most of the time, the people who don't even get hit ended up falling down. This was different because you had Undisputed Era arguing with Pat McAfee's crew, and then the referee's trying to break it up. So they were distracted. And then, McAfee came out for the swanton, and he literally hit everybody. Like, when he fell, he hit everybody, so everybody fell. So, again, going back to what we were talking about, we're sticklers to detail. The right guy won, Adam Cole won, so one thing I wish he didn't do was that Panama Sunrise. I kind of wish he would have just went for that knee.
Oh.
Just my opinion, but yeah, McAfee, he did a great job. He's good on the mic because he's believable. Because as wrestling fans, we don't like outsiders in our business. So McAfee really played that that dick heel really well. He's good on the mic. He seems like he gets it, and that he's comfortable. Like most celebrity matches, it seems like the guys are kind of get uncomfortable once they're in the ring. McAfee seems like he was really comfortable, doing what he did in the ring.
Yeah. If I wasn't clear about this, I want to clarify a couple things. First of all, I agree with you 100% on that swanton. The choreography and the execution of that was flawless. I think as far as celebrity matches go, this is probably one of the best, if not the best, celebrity performance I've seen in the ring. I'm just not really sure he's that big a celebrity that it should matter. Mm-hmm. I don't know that it drew a lot of eyes to the product, but I guess it got them some buzz, and I don't know what the return on that investment was, but I just don't like celebrity matches. But if you take that bias out of the equation, the match was good. The story was good. I mean, I don't know what else he had to go by other than, you need these guys to win, and you're small, and I'm not so small, and you're small. But the problem is that WWE has been using the "you're small" thing with so many people. I mean, Chad Gable and even Daniel Bryan and Rey Mysterio. And there's just, I mean, not in history. I mean, during the last year, there's been so much, like everyone Baron Corbin goes against, he's like, well, you're small. So that's like always the story. So, I mean, I know.
I don't mean to cut you off, but they had used, continuity with this because they had showed, because Pat McAfee used to work on the Takeover, pre-shows, where he would, they showed, clips of him talking shit to Adam Cole and Adam Cole talking shit back. And when they were on, I think, what was it, the Jump or the Bump or whatever it was called, where, in, kayfabe, they were shit talking each other. So this was something that they had already decided to use. It wasn't just a "you're small" thing, and I agree with you. I kind of wish they would stop doing the whole, well, you're small. It's like, that's cheesy and it's dumb. Like, it does nothing for nobody. And, the whole, episode, of Adam Cole showing up on McAfee's podcast, and, I'm not sure what they were trying to go for with that. I'm not sure if that was a thing of, WWE telling Adam Cole, hey, continue this quote-unquote feud you have with McAfee, and just whatever. Just say whatever you want, and that's about it. I guess, they saw the attention it was getting from, wrestling fans and, news outlets alike, that they decided to make this into a thing. So I don't know. I don't know if this was a feud that they had already planned to begin with. Because it just seems so random, because... I'm kind of barely a football fan. Like, I watch it, I'm a fan, but I don't know everybody. I had no clue who Pat McAfee was, months ago.
He was a punter for the Colts, so it's the least famous position on one of the least famous teams. So
you get
exactly. A double pass.
Yeah, exactly. Because like when he was on these takeover shows, I'm like, who is this guy? So he said Google. I'm like, oh, okay, whatever. If it was something like they decide to bring in, I'm just gonna throw out a random name like Peyton Manning to NXT to wrestle Keith Lee. I'm just throwing out random names. Then that would kind of give me the indication of, okay, this seems like something that they're planning. With McAfee and Adam Cole, it seems like that was to quote Bob Ross, it was a happy accident because it turned out great. The match was great, the feud was fine, and again, I'm very impressed with McAfee. Celebrity matches, again, they can work as long as they're done correctly. Because as far as celebrities wrestling in the ring, I kind of agree with you. I don't want to see too many celebrities or anyone with any public following, wrestling too much. Kind of do what they did with Mike Tyson, make them a special guest enforcer. And with Tyson, that was lightning in a bottle because he was like, the biggest name in sports at the time. So, but yeah, I mean, again, the match was great. Probably, in my opinion, match of the night, probably match of the weekend. But,
yeah, I'll say this last thing on that match about the story. I mean, I know it sounds like I was griping about it. I actually think it was the right story for that match. I just think that they've overused that story needlessly before, so that while it was a great filet mignon, it's just that they serve, it's like we've eaten 4 bad filet mignons, every weekend before, and so the great filet mignon sort of lost the flavor. But no complaints about the match itself. I think it actually overachieved. I'm not going to call it the match of the week. I really did. I think the ladder match was the best for me, but I mean, I certainly respect your opinion, and I don't think you're alone in it, and I don't think they could have done a better job with it. I mean, I think both guys, actually, all of them, the Undisputed Era did their parts well. I think they were Broncos who were there, but whoever the football players were who were with McAfee, I mean, they didn't do a lot, but what they did it convincingly. They didn't look lost. They didn't look artificial. It was all done well. So the match itself, I think, was good. Yeah,
exactly. Moving on to the next match, NXT Women's Championship. You have Io Shirai successfully defending against Dakota Kai with Raquel Gonzalez. Again, I like both. I like both competitors. I love Io Shirai. I'm a big fan of Dakota Kai. I think she's really come a long way. She's really improved. Both her and Tegan Nox, just to throw that name in there, when they had that match at Takeover Portland, that street fight, or I think it was a street fight, we all agree that match was not, it wasn't everyone's, cup of tea. It wasn't terrible, but it wasn't like, blowing anyone's, pants off or anything like that. It was what it was. But the one thing I can say about that match was that for two girls who are like, very green, they really went out there and just beat the shit out of each other. So that's the one good thing I could say about that match. Flash forward, about 6-7 months later, both girls have improved. Tegan Nox has gotten a lot better. Dakota Kai, I'm a bit more of a fan of because she seems like she's very comfortable in this heel role because it's kind of like with Bayley. When Bayley first became a heel, it didn't seem like she was very comfortable in the role because she was trying to be someone she wasn't, which was, I'm going to be this cookie cutter, generic heel and blame the fans for everything. Now she's comfortable in the role because she's grabbed a little bit of herself and put it in the role. It's like, I think it was The Rock who said it, in wrestling, your character is you with the volume jacked up to 100.
Yep.
With every heel, you need to find a little bit of yourself in that role. And with, Bayley, she's really, she admitted, in an interview that that's how she kind of got comfortable in the role because she kind of found a little bit of herself. And she said, the empty arenas, kind of helped too because it gave her free reign to just go out there and just kind of do whatever she wanted and say what she wanted. And now she's, more of the annoying, shit-talking, I think I'm better than everybody, heel, which it works. But we'll get to Bayley in a bit. But with Dakota Kai, it's worked for her automatically because I like her music personally. I think she has one of the better themes in NXT, possibly in the company. She's grown to be more comfortable in this heel role because she started out as I'm going to blame Tegan for how shitty my role is in this company. And it just made everybody hate her because I think, everybody was flocking more to Tegan because she was sympathetic. And now she's more comfortable because now she's just kind of this bitch. Like, she comes out with this swag of like, F everybody, I'm better than you. I'm the best thing in this company. And it almost seems like she's gotten a lot hotter as a heel. Like, she just my opinion. And she's great. She's great in the ring too. But her and Io just went out there. They had a really good match. Io, I expected her to win because I think this is leading to Io versus Rhea. I don't know when. I don't know if it's going to be the Takeover before Survivor Series or Mania. But that to me, that's the money matchup. But and also for Dakota, she has a long ways to go before she's considered being a champion. But I think she's getting there. It's going to be soon. So what do you think?
Well, I went 50-50 on my picks for the Takeover, and this is the third one that I got wrong. And I'm actually glad I was wrong again. I keep saying that like it's a cop-out, but I do prefer Io Shirai to Dakota Kai. I just thought Dakota Kai was going to win. I had some sort of reverse logic in my head that because she and Raquel Gonzalez were standing tall at the end of the go home show, wrestling logic 101 is that, well, they lose the big match, and I thought that NXT was going to try to pull a swerve and go opposite of that. So I sort of worked, shot myself into a work or worked myself into a shoot or whatever. And I overthought it. But I also thought that, and I call Raquel Gonzalez Sheasel, like She Diesel. I think it's clever. So I just thought that, why give Dakota Kai Sheasel if she's not going to have a title? So those were the two factors that went into it. That said, I don't really see anything in Dakota Kai. I didn't like how she used that finishing kick to Io's face 3 times and couldn't get the pin. That felt a little bit like a Ring of Honor or Young Bucks match with all these fake kickouts. And I know that that's more the norm now than the exception these days, but I still didn't like it. I mean, that, a human shouldn't be able to take that. But that said, I don't really see much in Dakota Kai. It seemed to me, in the most recent episode of NXT, which I guess was yesterday, it feels like 100 years ago, that the power dynamic was already shifting, that Raquel was sort of taking the lead, and I think that she's about to break away, whether it's a schism or otherwise, I don't know. But she was sort of directing more traffic as opposed to just being the henchwoman. So anyway, I'm glad that Io won, but I'm not going to add too much more to the match because I'm not the Dakota Kai fan of her personality, and I don't really care that much about her ring work. Her and Tegan Knox, neither one of them do anything for me. I mean, I see that Tegan is cute. I mean, okay, lots of people are cute. I guess I'm not interested in hearing another Australian female obnoxious heel. The Iconics have that lane covered just fine. Oh,
don't compare Dakota to the Iconics, man. Come on.
No, the Iconics at least are tall. But I don't.
Dakota's better than both of them combined, dude. Come on. I told you you're not going to like me. I went too far, but no, I'm not interested in Dakota. I'm more interested in Raquel Gonzalez moving forward. I'd like them to change her gear to make her more badass, as opposed to trying to like sex her up, because that's not really her thing. But that aside, I'm happy with who won, and I think that that's just fine. But this was not an important match for me. This was sort of
a break match as far as I was concerned. I do like Io. I think her and Rhea are a good matchup. I think you're likely to be right. I'm not sure exactly how they get there or why they get there, but I think that, I mean, if you can call anything in NXT a money match because they only broke even 1 year, I don't know if there is any money match for NXT, but I understand what you mean. That's the marquee match, and that's the one that I think would draw eyes right now. And I like Rhea a lot. I like Io a lot. I think that they both have really bright futures ahead of them on the main roster or wherever they would perform.
Yeah, I mean, at the moment, with everything that just went on after the show and everything that we just found on Wednesday, at the moment, this is the bigger marquee match, and then after the match, Rhea came out to save Io from the Raquel Gonzalez beat down, and they just stared each other down, and then Io posed with the belt, and then Rhea just stared her down at the ramp. So.
That was my favorite part of the match.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, just to close it out before we get to the main event, I think Rhea needs to be a heel, and to really make this feud work, because it's just me nitpicking. There needs to be a heel and there needs to be a face. If you're going to have a big feud like this in a big marquee matchup, there needs to be a heel and there needs to be a face. I'm not a fan of face versus face, and there haven't been too many heel versus heel, big matchups. So for this to work, it looks like they're leaning towards Rhea being a heel. And I'm okay with that, because she kind of needs to be a heel, because at the moment, Rhea's kind of not floundering, but it just seems like, what else have you done? Because last year was her year. She had a big year. For Survivor Series, and then at Takeover, and then she ended up winning the title.
She got charlatized.
She got what?
Charlatized.
Yeah. So that's an interesting way to put it. She needs to be a heel, because Io is over as fuck. And I think the luster for Rhea, I wouldn't say it's dying down, but it's not as big as it was last year. So in order for her to really be effective, she needs to be a heel, because Rhea, at the end of the day, she looks like an ass kicker. Not an ass kicker.
Ass kicker, right?
She's a giant, ass kicker, headbanger that you see at a metal concert. And that's not someone who you should be cheering. Like, she needs to be the ass kicking heel in this feud. And Io, she's the genius of the sky. Again, at the end of the day, someone needs to be a heel. Someone needs to be a face. Io needs to be that face.
I have no objection to your heel-face dynamic thesis. I agree with it. I have no objection to Rhea being the heel. I just don't see how that's going to happen anytime soon, and it doesn't have to be soon. You yourself said this could be at the Takeover before WrestleMania. But, I mean, right now her rivalries seem to be Raquel Gonzalez, Sheezel, which I think that's going to be transitioned. But her other rival is Mercedes Martinez, who's, certainly a heel, and I don't think that's going to change anytime soon either. So, and it's funny, you said Io is over as fuck. I don't know how anybody knows who's over now.
Well, I mean, I'm just kind of exaggerating. Like, she is over. Like, she was over. Is she over as heel. Is she stone cold over? Like, no, but she's over. She's over. She's the hot thing right now. She's the hottest woman in the company right now.
But when she got hot, got hot when she was crazy Io. When she was crazy evil Io. That was awesome.
Yeah,
so why not? Yeah.
And she still, I mean, and she can still do that. I mean, she still kind of has, she still kind of has glimpses of that whenever they have her, her promo vignettes where she'll be speaking not monotone, but very methodically. And she'll be talking in English, and then she'll switch over to Japanese. Like, she still has glimpses of that craziness. And actually, I've been saying this for a while. I prefer that crazy. She can still be a face and still be a crazy girl. She can still be the crazy girl from the ring.
Well, Moxley's sort of doing that, sure.
yeah, like again, I'm fine with this because again, Io is the over female face. Rhea is over, but Rhea needs to be a heel. And, just my opinion. But now we got the main event. You got Keith. You have the NXT World Championship, or I don't even know what they call it, the World Championship, but the NXT Championship. Keith Lee, the champion, defending against Karrion Kross. Karrion Kross winning the NXT Championship. Before I get my thoughts, I want to hear your thoughts on this match.
Well, I mean, I sort of spoiled it earlier when I said it went 3-3, and so I already told the folks which match I got wrong to get to 3 wrong. I got this one right. I like both these guys. I like Keith Lee a lot. I like Karrion Kross a lot. I like Scarlett. I like Karrion Kross when he was Killer Kross. I liked him when he was the White Rabbit, even though that didn't quite make sense, but nothing really needed to make sense in Lucha Underground. I have some, well, we know some of the same people who are real life friends with him, which, doesn't make him a friend of ours, but it's still cool when you know somebody who knows a real celebrity and they vouch for that person and you've already liked the character. So now you're inclined to like them on a real life basis. So I was, I saw them putting the strap on him and they put the rocket on his back. I'm like a lot of people. I'm not happy that Keith Lee ended up with a short reign, but I also knew that he was going to be on Raw, and he's immediately put into a program with Randy Orton and Drew McIntyre. So, I mean, his whatever happened to him, it's he's moving on up in the world. I'm sure he's going to get a nice main roster contract. His merch sales are going to go through the roof. He's going to get a fat raise, and he's on a pay-per-view with Randy Orton, in 3 days or 4 days from now. So, it all worked out, except that none of it worked out. And, so on Keith Lee's side, there was an issue with the music, and people don't like the attire, but the music was legit generic. And then Kross got his shoulder separated. That's the big, calamity to come out of it.
Well, with Keith Lee, he actually addressed it because he put on Twitter, as far as the music goes, it's out of my hands, but I'll handle it. Just leave it be. So the story going around with the music is the band that used to do a lot of the wrestlers intros, or was it CFO?
Yes,
they are no longer part of the WWE as far as making music. So, right. And so when Keith Lee got brought to the main roster, they just asked him if you can change the theme because we're not doing, we're not working with these guys anymore. We'll give you a new theme eventually, but we just got to give you this for now. And he agreed to it, and he agreed to the wardrobe, which again I thought that was stupid. Putting a vest over him, which I don't think that ever mattered. But yeah, the music thing, it kind of threw me off. But I'm glad he addressed it. I'm glad he just said, hey, A, B, C, and D, I'll handle it. So, right. And Keith Lee is a top guy. And according to a mutual friend of ours, Kevin Castle, Keith Lee wanted out of NXT. His goal was to be on the main roster because, Keith Lee is also in his mid-30s. He's pushing 40. So he doesn't want to be in NXT for too long. So, he's on the main roster, which is good. It's just, I guess, we'll kind of point out the elephant in the room. Karrion Kross, separated his shoulder during the match. And I guess we can kind of move on to NXT on Wednesday. We can go back and forth with this match in NXT on Wednesday. Karrion Kross opened the show, came out with a sling in his arm. I like the promo that he gave because usually with a lot of these, wrestlers announcing that they're hurt and they have to relinquish their title promos, they always talk out of character and then they try to make themselves look like too much of a face. With Kross, he came off as likable, but he was still in character. He came out and said, hey, I told you what was going to happen, and it happened. There's casualties of war. Unfortunately, shit happened. Which, just paraphrasing. And, he said they're not going to let me wrestle with this, thing on my arm, so I got to relinquish the title, but I'll be back. So it's just weird that they would already put Keith Lee on the main roster if they knew Kross, who's somebody that they've been building up as a megastar, was hurt. Like, it kind of fucks over NXT because pretty soon when, AEW is allowed to, record, go on their, regular day on Wednesday, when both shows are going back to back on Wednesdays again, AEW is going to kick their ever-living shit out of NXT in the ratings. Because, Lee's gone, and now Kross is going to be out for a bit. AEW is kind of lacking, star power. I mean, not AEW, NXT. So it sucks. It sucks for Kross because I like him. He's a good dude. I've seen interviews with him. I've seen him post stuff on social media. He comes off as a very likable guy. He comes off as someone who's very, very intelligent. Like I don't know how many degrees he has, but he just comes off as someone who's very intelligent and that he knows what he's talking about. I like Scarlett too. I like both of them. They both seem like good people, which is weird because it's funny when you think about it because it almost seems like the mistake that we made finding out how good of people they are because, on TV they're supposed to be these kind of scary, evil badasses. And then you're just like, but they just gave money to a charity the other day.
Yeah, there's too much in the air. Yeah, I don't think that anybody else has ever compared Kevin Kross or Karrion Kross to Brandi Lauren. But going back to my discussion with Brandi Lauren on Twitter, Kevin Kross is the same way, or Karrion Kross is the same way. He interacts, he responds every now and then, he likes things, and when he responds, he's appreciative, he seems genuine, he's cordial, he doesn't come off as a dick. So he's like Brandi Lauren on Twitter. He comes off as a decent person. You're not bothering him. If you send a GIF that he likes, he'll not just like it. He'll respond or send a counter GIF or GIF. So he seems. I mean, it's the little things. But I'm going back to the Keith Lee thing a little bit. I know the story with CFOs. I think that's actually wasn't a CFO thing necessarily. I think that there's more to it. I think it has to do with contract, and they could have used the CFO music as long as they wanted, as long as it's just playing as his entrance music, because use is use. But WWE likes to sell the music on Spotify and things like that, and I think they wait till somebody's either really big or on the main roster to sell the music. And I think that their deal with CFO didn't allow them to sell that. So they couldn't sell the single or put it on a compilation or whatever. So they want new music. So they're working on it. And I heard that he's going to have new music as early as this week. As far as the attire is concerned, I don't think he needed the sleeveless, exercise, muscle shirt, but I didn't mind it. I mean, I think it looked good. People seem to have an issue with the shorts looking like a skirt or whatever. I didn't notice that, so maybe I just wasn't looking hard enough, but that didn't bug me. But, I think Keith will be fine. As far as Kross is concerned and the situation, I mean, in hindsight, I agree 100% with what you said, but one thing about WWE, for better or for worse, usually for worse, they don't generally change their plans unless they really, really have to. And if their plan was to bring Keith Lee up, they were bringing Keith Lee up. And I think the thing about the ratings is sort of that they already know that AEW is going to beat NXT in the ratings almost every week, no matter what. So why try? Why waste an asset on NXT when they can put it on the main roster?
Well, because, the way they're kind of treating NXT now, they're treating it almost as if it's the third brand. So my idea...
fake.
Really? It's fake?
I don't mean wrestling's fake. I mean that it's fake that they're treating it like a third brand. Well, that's a show. It's still developmental.
Well, at the end of the day, it's still developmental. But I'm just calling a spade a spade. They're treating it. They're giving it that you're the new brand treatment because they're on USA. They're on a nationally televised channel. So I propose, since they're lacking star power, why not send, a couple guys down there to kind of, boost a couple ratings? Because, you put Finn down there, why not put a Daniel Bryan down there? Perfect, I'm not saying this would ever happen, which is weird because he actually wants to go down there, or wants to go down there pretty soon. Why not put an AJ Styles down there pretty soon? Why not have guys go down there and just make appearances?
Well, they might. But they did. I mean, they have put people down there. I mean, they put Finn down there. It didn't do anything. They put Charlotte down there. It didn't do anything. Breezango's been down there. That didn't do anything. Killian Dane is back down there. It didn't do anything. Drake Maverick is signed back there. It didn't do anything. I'm not sure, what the thought process is. I mean, Daniel Bryan probably would pop a rating, and I don't think Daniel Bryan would mind at all. I think, especially as being a dad, if he only had to fly in once a week and work with the young guys and whatnot. I mean, he may, be interested in that, but I'm not really sure that, I mean, I think it's more important to WWE for them to pop the rating on SmackDown on Fox on Friday nights than it is on the USA Network on Wednesday nights. I mean, look, neither one of us are TV executives, or at least I'm not. I actually don't know what you do in the real world, but I'm guessing you're not a TV executive. USA Network doesn't have original programming from in the 8 o'clock hour. Even when they have original programming, it's typically from 10 to 11 and 11 to 12. So they have shows like, Back as a Kid, La Femme Nikita, Silk Stockings, Burn Notice, Treadstone more recently. Mr. Robot, I think, was their only early slot primetime show, forever. And that was a, sort of a phenomenon. So they're just competing with reruns. And I think it's almost, they were going to put on reruns or of Law and Order or Criminal Intent or whatever they play, or NCIS. So I don't really think that, I think that as long as they're in the conversation and keeping AEW from going over 1 million, or maybe one day going over 1.2 million or whatever it is, I think that they're happy enough with it. I don't know that USA cares or doesn't, but I don't really think that popping a rating by taking away from SmackDown or putting AJ on there on the long term is something that's in the cards.
No, I'm not saying long term. I mean, just like have him make appearances, have him come down there and just wrestle with the young guys. Daniel Bryan, I think, would be a good fit, because I'm pretty sure if you ask Daniel Bryan, hey, you want to come to NXT and work with the young guys, he would say abso-fucking-lutely. Kevin Owens, I think at this point in his career, I think NXT could really benefit from having him on the show, and I think he could benefit from being on NXT. Just an opinion.
Maybe. You know what I would like to see NXT do is I'd like to see them do sort of what AEW did with the TNT title open, though it doesn't have to involve a title, but have sort of an open and have some of the local indie wrestlers, not local, have some indie wrestlers come in, let them work for 6 weeks or 1 week or whatever, get a paycheck, especially during this COVID thing, and insert some spice and see who works and who doesn't. Get someone different in there, so you let it doesn't have to be the same people, but just because I'm not that creative, or mentally dexterous, have Workhorse come in 1 week, have, like a Chris Dickinson come in 1 week, or and I'm not sure about people's contract status and whatnot, but, Zicky Dice could come in. There's any number of people out there who are either complete free agents or have the ability to work multiple places. Like Matt Sydal tweeted that he wants the Time Splitters to challenge Breezango. He said he's a free agent. He can work wherever he wants. He's on a handshake deal with Impact. So cool. Let him let him show up. Let the Time Splitters challenge. So put an air of excitement in NXT. I don't think it needs to come top down. It can be more bottom up. But I have I don't want to give your listeners or you the wrong impression. I'm totally okay with AJ Styles going down there, every now and then, or Daniel Bryan going down there every now and then, or for a several week arc or whatever the case may be. I'm just not sure that the purpose should just be to pop a rating. There should be some story for it. There should be some reason they think to advance someone.
Just to kind of clarify what I said about popping a rating, just make the show interesting. Make the show. I don't. And they say AEW is the alternative to WWE. Have NXT be the alternative because personally I prefer NXT over AEW. I think it's the better wrestling show. But the one thing about AEW NXT, it's kind of it can be a very dull show. It's almost without a pulse because you don't leave NXT going oh shit, I gotta watch that, I gotta watch it next week. You kind of leave going, there's some good matches, good talent, nothing dumb, blah blah blah. NXT, you put an AJ Styles on there, it could change people's why is there an echo? That's weird.
I'm sorry, I don't know.
That was weird. That kind of threw me up for a bit. But yeah, you put an AJ Styles on there, you're going to have people maybe not flocking over, but you're going to have people going, maybe NXT is worth watching. You put a Daniel Bryan on there, maybe NXT is worth watching. Or, you can do next week on NXT, Triple H will come out and talk. Or next week on NXT, you're going to have such and such legend coming out and doing an appearance. And then you can have a legend, talking in the ring, and then Cameron Grimes can come out and talk a little bit of shit, and then that quote-unquote, whoever that legend is can just beat the shit out of them. That can, bring in viewers. So it's just...
I agree with you that NXT needs spice. I mean, they need more life. It feels dull. It's solid but pedestrian. It's like a decent city, but not an exciting city. Again, I think we're talking just about two different ways to maybe get it more interesting and build a little bottom up. But I have to be honest with you. I think that maybe once in a while that will work. But I think even if you put Daniel Bryan on for 4 weeks in a row, it might get them over the ratings hump the first week. But I don't think after that. I think that the ratings war is over unless just a crop of NXT guys turn out to be really special and are on NXT. And I think the WWE knows that the ratings war is over, and that's why it's back to being, clearly developmental. So it's just different ways of getting more interest on there. But they could do simpler things too. It's a dark show. The room is black. They can just add some lights. I know the color scheme is yellow and black, but their lighting branding is drives me crazy. The blue on Fridays drives me crazy. The red on Mondays drives me crazy. We know Raw is red, but all the lights don't need to be red. If you just look at AEW, there's contrast. There's different colors. There's different things to look at. It's visually more interesting. Make it visually more interesting. Work on the music. I know that you can only do so much acoustically in that studio, but try different things. I don't know. There's got to be something. But yeah, I think we're just saying the same thing from different avenues, except that I think that because you love NXT, or maybe because you're right and I'm wrong, you think that NXT still has a shot at competing with the ratings. I think, with the exception of maybe a few times a year, they don't. I think it's sort of game over.
I think at this point, like you mentioned, the ratings war has been dead for a while because all right, here's one thing NXT could really benefit is pretty soon, they're going to bring, fans in the arenas, and AEW's already doing that. NXT could, should start doing that. WWE's, should start doing that. But what's really holding NXT back is that they're giving it that, it's the other brand thing, but they're still treating it like it's developmental. And I know it's developmental, but NXT could really benefit from moving out of Full Sail and actually going in an arena to give it that big show feel. Because, you watch Raw and SmackDown, and Raw and SmackDown are big shows because they give it the big show feel. AEW, it's its own company, and they give it that big show feel. NXT, they still treat it like it's development. I mean, yeah, it is still developmental, but they still treat it like it's developmental. They still give it that independent movie feel instead of a big budget action movie feel. So
I think it won't feel so much like development. I'm sorry, why am I having so much trouble saying that word? But I am, for whatever reason. So I'm not even going to try. Everyone out there, you know what I'm trying to say. I think it will get that big show feel again if they just do what we were talking about earlier and start having it so that there's 5, 6, 7, 8 people that feel like they have that they're vying for all of the titles, that you could realistically picture any one of a number of people getting a title shot. There was a time in NXT where there was a time in NXT where there were probably 10 or 12 women who I could realistically see as being world title holders. And frankly, there was a time on the main roster where I felt the same way about the women's title, that I knew who the big shots were, but that you could realistically see them putting an engine behind Mandy Rose or Ember Moon or whatever at the time. It wasn't just the 4 Horsewomen, Asuka. You could see it realistically, and that went away. And when that went away, then the women's division seemed a lot like the men's division. And I think that NXT sort of suffered from that. But if they, I think maybe this thing with Kross might be a blessing, because now you've got this 4-man match. There's going to be, other people swirling around. They've got to adjust. They've got to be creative. Maybe we'll see more, hopefully Loomis comes back sooner rather than later. Ridge Holland, they had one great match, one match where he almost killed a guy. But we'll see. And maybe some of the people from Raw Underground will start to perform on NXT proper. And I don't know. I'm just hoping that if they have, 6 or 7 people vying for the North American title, and 6 or 7 people vying for the women's title, and 6 or 7 people vying for the NXT championship, it will start to get that big show feel again, because you need contenders, even if they're not really contenders, to feel like they're trying to do something to make the show make sense, to make it feel big time. And I think that's as much as, as viable a solution as, putting on AJ Styles, or, having an open invitational where, you have 6 indie guys spend 3 months there. So I don't know. That's just sort of my 2 cents on that.
Yeah. And then, just to kind of close out this topic before we get to SummerSlam, next week, William Regal made the announcement that next week it will be NXT will be appearing on a Tuesday due to the NHL playoffs on Wednesday, and it will be for the vacant NXT Championship. You have Gargano, Ciampa, Finn Balor, and Adam Cole in a Fatal 4-Way Iron Man match, in a 1-hour Fatal 4-Way Iron Man match, which that could go either way. I kind of wish they made it like an elimination match rather than just a straight up Fatal 4-Way, because the elimination adds to the spice of the match, because then that gives people the notion of I thought this guy was going to win, now he's out. I thought this guy was going to win, now he's out. Now it's down to these 2 guys, so I wonder who's going to win. But if it's just like a straight up Fatal 4-Way, it becomes a thing of somebody could win by accident. Like Adam Cole could win because Finn Balor went for that diving, drop. I forget what that fucking move's called. That diving thing where he lands on his feet. He's gonna land on Ciampa, then Adam Cole is gonna push him out of the way and pin him. So I don't want that to happen. I kind of want there to be more suspense. But I'll make it quick. I think Finn should get the title, because we already had Adam Cole in that spot for a while, and that kind of, I wouldn't say world it's welcome, but I don't think he needs to be the champion again at this point. Gargano, I don't want to see him as champion. Ciampa, he just came back. He's a heel now, so I would say give it to Finn, because we were mentioning about Finn. I think Finn is, he needs to do something. Like he's in NXT to have good matches, Okay, so what? So you give Finn the title. You have 3 guys that could chase him, and you can possibly add Damian Priest. You can add a Bronson Reed. You can add Dream, and then whenever he gets back, you could put Karrion Kross. And again, that's another. And I like to use this term a lot. Another money matchup. You have Finn Balor versus Karrion Kross, and you can have Finn be the demon. So that sells itself. But I forgot to ask you, who do you think should win the title next week?
I don't know. I actually was enjoying listening to your analysis and your pontifications on this. I'm sort of, well, anyone but Johnny is fine. I think someone doesn't need the title is sort of like a newer fan kind of thing. I mean, if someone doesn't need the title, why are we, so caught up in Ric Flair having the title 16 times and John Cena tying 16 times and Randy Orton being a 13-time champion? Nobody needs the titles, but that's what we talk about, when their careers are advanced and over. So I disagree with that concept. It's like there's nothing left to do in NXT. I don't buy into that. I mean, if you're going to be a top person on a brand, be a top person on a brand. I mean, did anyone ever say to J.R. Ewing, there's nothing left to do in Dallas, so he should move to a different show? No. I mean, there's always something new to do. It's the stories, and the titles are the props, and they should be the thing that everyone's chasing after, but it's the story that matters. That said, if I was to have picked a couple days ago, I would have said Finn as well, because he makes a lot of sense on a lot of levels. However, I have a theory, and my theory is that Retribution is nothing more than NXT. And when they were trying to chase them out of their house, they literally meant their house. The PC is their house. And that Ciampa came back and was particularly vicious to Jake Atlas because he declined to join Retribution. And he's going to be vicious to other people who declined to join Retribution. And so Ciampa needs to be the champion of NXT because he is the leader of Retribution, or at least the leader that we see in the beginning. Because I don't think he's actually going to be the final boss. I think it'll be someone like Shawn Michaels or whatever will be the final boss. But I don't think it was a coincidence that Ciampa and Wade Barrett, from Nexus fame, came back at the same night. So, or maybe I'm just desperately trying to make a non-story turn into a story, and I'm taking breadcrumbs and putting them in a line to try to make sense out of a company that rarely makes sense and rarely puts stories together. But that's my theory. I'm sticking with it, so I'm going with Ciampa.
All right, fair enough.
You were not impressed.
Well, no, I agree to disagree. I can see where you're coming from, but yeah, just agree. That's basically been that should be the title of tonight's show, is agree to disagree.
Well, that makes for good radio, right?
Yeah, it's always good when you can have two different opinions. If we're just on here being like, yeah, I agree. What do you think? I agree. That would just be boring. But SummerSlam,
we don't know each other that well. I mean, if we knew each other that well and we agreed, we could still bust each other's chops. But we don't. So it's this kind of a respectful disagreement, I think, is more interesting for the listener.
Yeah, and also, personally, I'd rather we don't agree on everything. Because if we're just agreeing on everything, that's going to drive me crazy. Because I'm like, okay, challenge me on this. Don't just say I think you're right. But yeah, it makes for good listening. But SummerSlam, I'm not going to go, match by match because it's,
no need.
But SummerSlam, I thought was okay. I didn't think it was that bad. I gave it a 7.5 out of 10. I probably should pull up the matches because I'm starting to forget shit. But yeah.
Well, the first match was the U.S. title match.
Yeah, that was a pre-show. That was about 6 minutes. I don't want to see MVP wrestle ever again. I'd rather just see him as a manager, for the Hurt Business, which I like. I think he's good in that role as a manager because he's in his mid-40s. I think he's almost pushing 50.
He's 45.
Yes, so he needs to not ever wrestle again. Just be a mouthpiece. Apollo Crews, I like that he's in he's back in a spot that looks interesting, that he's actually going out there and being a part of the show. So, good for him.
And he's not being a stupid babyface. He's being a smart babyface.
Yeah, and, it's funny you say stupid babyface, because when he first got brought up to the main roster, he was just the, stomp and clap babyface. Like, he was just out there smiling, doing flips, which I'm just like, we have enough of those guys. Do something different. And now he's kind of reinvented his character. He has a different move, which I like. He's not just the smiley babyface. He's out there. I mean, he still smiles, but he's out there as just, I'm here for the fans. I'm here for everybody else. But once that bell rings, I'm all business. So, fine with that. I thought the match of the night was Bayley and Asuka. Those two work well together. Like I mentioned about Bayley. She's won me over. I mean, I've always liked Bayley. I don't want this to seem like I've always hated Bayley. But Bayley in NXT, over as fuck. And I can I can use that for this term. Like, she was over as fuck in NXT.
Oh, you can. There were live crowds. That's subjectively true.
Yeah, like she was almost the female John Cena in NXT. Yes. Her match with Sasha at Takeover, 5 years ago, people can still talk about that. That's something people can still bring up.
But she wasn't polarizing. All the fans liked her. Cena was always like, let's go Cena. Cena sucks.
Well, Bayley, she had her chance too. Oh, you want some Bayley? Like, yeah. But when she got brought up to the main roster, it almost seems like something that you hear in a documentary, like a sports documentary. It's like, everything was fine, but then she got brought up to the main roster. And it just, it seemed like they didn't know what to do with her. Which is, when you look at it in hindsight, it almost seems like the best thing that ever happened to her, because, the whole cute little girl gimmick that she was trying to do, it was, it can be something that's very dated. So when she became a heel, and now that she's very comfortable in this heel role as, I'm gonna be king shit. I'm gonna come out there and talk shit. I'm gonna tell everybody how great I am. It works because it seems like she's comfortable in it, so that's why it's working. Asuka.
I like heel Bayley.
I'm sorry?
I like heel Bayley.
Oh yeah. And then Asuka, who's, again, another one like an Apollo Crews, that she was kind of floundering, but she found herself. Like, she wasn't just like wallowing in her, in her self-pity. She found a way to get herself over again. And it worked. And a lot of people, like Kevin Castle, had said that, Asuka's, probably the MVP of, the WWE right now during this whole, COVID thing. And she's been able to get herself over. And again, it also helps that she can go out there and work, and she can have a good match with everybody. Her and Bayley have good chemistry, because I don't think her and Bayley had really had too many matches. Actually, no, I'm wrong. Asuka was the one that beat Bayley for the NXT Women's Championship. Right, so yeah. I don't know why I forgot that. I should slap myself for forgetting that. But that's really that's really the only big feud they had was back in NXT. They never really had a main roster feud. So this match worked. I like the match. Again, I like the chemistry between the two. It was expected, because a lot of matches that I expected how it was going to go, it went. We can kind of skip to the Sasha and Asuka match. Here's how I'm nitpicking, is that I thought that match should have won on exactly after the Bayley match, because that way you can kind of build the storyline of, Asuka just had a match with Bayley and she just gave everything she had. Now she has to wrestle another match against Sasha. Can Asuka do it? Wrestling 101. And then, somehow Bayley gets involved, and that costs, Sasha the title, which that's what ended up happening. Bayley, got involved, and it cost Sasha the match, and Asuka's the Raw Women's Champion. Again, so that builds up this storyline, this tension with Bayley and Sasha, that it seems like it's going to happen at Mania, because this match is too big to happen on a Survivor Series or a Royal Rumble. It needs to happen at Mania. So they need to continue building this best friend storyline. And it needs to happen at Mania, just a preference.
I don't know when you want me to sort of jump in on things. I don't know if you want to do the whole card and then, turn to me if you want me to comment throughout. I'm not ready.
I'd rather just talk about the show as a whole. I probably should have mentioned this. Around 9-ish, my time, I need to head out. So that's why I'm not doing a whole card for SummerSlam.
That's fine. You do your thing and just tell me when and nod it to me like you're the moderator. That's fine. I'm fine.
Yeah, exactly. I also don't want to rush the show, but SummerSlam. Bayley and Asuka I think had the match of the night. The tag match with the Street Profits and Andrade and Garza I thought was okay. Drew and Orton, I thought it was just too fucking long. Too long. Way too long. And it seems like they want to continue that. The main event was garbage. Bray and Braun. Braun is just... I don't care for him. I'm glad they got the title off him, but Bray, I don't care for. I don't care about The Fiend anymore. Like, I don't know how you feel. I don't care about The Fiend. Is it me or has Bray gained weight again?
Oh, he's definitely gaining weight.
It looks awkward. Roman coming out at the end of the match, I thought was the better part of the match. I mean, it's good to see Roman. He looks like he's in great shape. He fixed his teeth, which was kind of the conversation after the match. I'm
not sure you can say he fixed them.
Or I don't know what he did, but he did something to his teeth because they look
weird.
I don't think they look weird. They just look. It was just unique. It was something unique about him. But Roman, is he a heel or is he a tweener? I don't know what he's supposed to be because he attacked 2 heels. So I don't know what that's supposed to make him. But the conversation with a lot of journalists and podcasts is that he's a heel. I don't know if he's a heel. One thing about Roman, and I'll let you get to this, but I'm just going to finish up with Roman. One thing with Roman, the best way to push Roman is you make him an ass kicker. And I've always said, make Roman into Wolverine from the X-Men. Make Roman, the soft-spoken, he doesn't talk a lot, he kicks ass, and then he'll ask questions later. Don't have him go out there and give these long-winded promos. Just have him kick the shit out of people. Because Samoans are known to be violent people. I'm not saying all Samoans are violent, but in the wrestling business, Samoans are violent. So you push him as a violent ass kicker. And that is the best way to push Roman. So, anyways, go ahead. What are your thoughts on all this?
Okay. Well, my thoughts on SummerSlam overall was I think it was a good show, a solid good show, but it wasn't a great show. I know things happened, but I didn't feel like anything really happened except for the Roman thing. I expected there to be more nonsense or tomfoolery or dusty finishes, whatever you want to say to it. I expected there to be more that demanded payback for a pay-per-view coming a week later. So I was disappointed that Retribution didn't play any sort of role. I was expecting there to be some reveal there or some involvement. There wasn't even really much of a mention. I agree that Apollo Crews is in a much better place. I'm enjoying his work. I'm glad he has the title. I'm glad he kept it. But I did pick MVP, and not because I wanted him to win. I like MVP. I think I agree with you that Asuka is the MVP of WWE for 2020 during the COVID era. But I would argue that close behind her are 4 people: Bayley and Sasha, but only together. Randy Orton, who I think has done, some great talking work and some great ring work, and MVP. I think MVP is in conversation for the MVP, except he's not because of Asuka.
Those are some good choices. Good choices. I'm not going to argue with that. Go ahead.
Thank you, sir. But I just don't understand why you've got this Hurt Business and nobody's got a title except for every now and then the 24/7 title, which is garbage anyway. So I sort of thought MVP would win for that reason alone. But I'm glad he didn't, and I'm fine with that. I'm talking more than this match deserves. On the women's match, now that you say it, I see your point that them being back to back would have been a more interesting story. But I also feel like this grouping has just been so overexposed for so long that I've sort of seen enough of them that I didn't really mind the break. On one hand, I sort of liked the mirror but slightly different finishes. But I don't really buy that Bayley cost Sasha the match just because she didn't take the fall. I mean, the impact to Asuka is the same. I mean, she knocks Sasha off the ring and then Bayley gets the roll up. She does the same move, doesn't knock Bayley off, but it's the same thing. And it's just Asuka being smart or whatever the case may be. But I understand the story. It's just it didn't feel compelling to me. But I do agree with you that I love Sasha and Bayley together. I know that one day they have to break up, but I hope they don't. I hope they sort of tease it. I hope they make up again and then break up. And that's sort of how I feel about Garza and Andrade. And I'm not going to get this. I already know it, but I wanted them to win the titles. I hate that they put this team together that works together well with Selena Vega, who's a superstar. She's everything that WWE wanted Sasha to be, but now Sasha is who they want her to be also. But for months and months and months or years, she wasn't. So I want to see that team not have instant dissension. And I'm not enjoying the program with the Street Profits that much. I wanted them to get the titles, but at the very least, the next night, why in God's green earth is that feud continuing? I mean, let the Street Profits move on to the next challengers. But that match was, like you said, it was okay. It was fine. I didn't like the ending. I don't like the whole thing about it. I was just relieved that Orton and Drew wasn't longer. I thought it was going to be like an Edge Orton match and just go forever. Mm-hmm. So while it was long, I didn't feel it was too long. I thought it was fine. Drew beat him with a wrestling move, not the Claymore. I guess that's sort of clever. Whatever, it ended. I didn't want Randy Orton to be the champion, so fine. Over and done with. Here's where we're going to disagree, because I'm a sizist. I like the main event. I like the two Haas's going at each other. I like the slobber knockers. I did not like that Alexa Bliss played no role in it. I did not like that they didn't further the is she not Sister Abigail thing. I didn't like that it wasn't clarified any further who's heel, who's face. Are they both heels? Because I think that this is not a heel face thing. I think that this is a reunion. I think that Braun is going to join Bray, and this is just going to be one of the many trials of Hercules that Roman has to overcome to get to that title. I don't want Roman to win next week. I don't know that anyone does, but I don't think he should. I think it's a bad story. I think the story needs to go much longer. And that also builds into my little theory about Retribution being NXT, because I think Roman, can make a pretty good argument that saying, hey, WWE forgot about me. I had cancer. I came back. I was COVID. They didn't really take care of people. Nobody talked about me. People still booed me. No. I come back. They give me grief about my teeth. Randy Orton's making fun of me, calling me a horse. But I think that Roman is going to play the role of Stone Cold Steve Austin in the WCW invasion angle. So I think he is the tweener. And even his shirt had a similar message as Stone Cold's did, 20 years ago or whenever it was. So I think Roman is going to be the tweener. They don't have the guts to turn him heel, but I think in this case it works. And if I'm right about the theory, I'm okay with it. I thought the end was great. It was a surprise. I was not expecting Roman to come back. COVID's still going on. He still is immunodeficient as far as I know, and he's in a danger zone. So it was a real surprise. WWE doesn't do a lot of surprises, or at least not well. That was well done. So the ending was good. So for that, yeah, I'll go with this. Give it in COVID, I grade everything on a 10. So, on a curve. So yeah, I'll give it a 7, or I'll agree with your 7.25. But in a non-COVID era, I probably would have called it like a 6.5. It was just, even though it was eventful, it didn't feel eventful. It felt pedestrian. But we'll see. I keep hoping for the bigger story or stories, and I just never get them. And obviously that's like a definition of insanity.
Yeah, I agree with you on the Alexa Bliss part. I was surprised that she didn't show up and play a role because they were really kind of beating it into everybody's head. Alexa Bliss, and Braun Strowman, were kind of a thing, but they weren't really. And then no Alexa Bliss. Like she even put on her social media, kind of voicing her displeasure, like I'm at home and I'm not at the show. Like she didn't say that, but she was just like, yeah, I didn't see that coming.
Yeah,
but
and I'm hoping that's a swerve too. I'm hoping that's part of the story, that's part of an act in a bigger story. And everyone out there who is saying to me, Jeff, you're a fool. You keep thinking that there's a bigger story. They don't work that hard. Every one of you who's thinking that, including Drew, you're all correct. You're 100% correct. I just keep hoping. I keep hoping that one day WWE will remember how to tell basic wrestling stories. I know I'm crazy. I'm sorry. I can't help it. I'm sorry, and so am I.
You don't need to apologize, dude. But yeah, we'll get to Payback just to close everything out. Payback is this Sunday. These are the matches that are announced. You got Keith Lee versus Randy Orton.
Fine, I'm okay with that.
I mean, do you have Keith Lee win, or do you have him lose on his debut pay-per-view, or I think
we all know that Drew's going to insert himself and cost him the win, and they're going to continue to be sort of tenuous friends for a while, and someone's going to turn. I mean, I think they'll probably have Keith Lee turn because I think that they really like Drew as sort of the handsome face, the guy that can be their next Hollywood dude. But I don't know. If there's going to be a clean win, and they're not going to do any more complicated the story, which is probably the case, I would have Keith Lee win and surprise Randy Orton.
Yeah, because Keith Lee needs to win this match. It almost seems like
Randy Orton doesn't.
Yeah, what does Randy need? Like, what does Randy gain from beating Keith Lee? Because if Keith Lee wins, it's going to be by some kind of fuckery. Like he's going to somehow do a schoolboy on him, or I don't know. Drew McIntyre is going to get involved somehow. So I'm picking Keith to win because I don't see Randy needing anything out of beating Keith Lee. Like, he really doesn't.
And listeners, I'm not being a hypocrite. Randy doesn't need it. He's already the 13-time champion. So this is not saying that Adam Cole doesn't need to be the NXT champion twice. It's different.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, Keith. Yeah, we're in agreement that Keith Lee should. We're picking Keith Lee to win this.
Yes.
So next match is Sasha Banks and Bayley versus Shayna Baszler and Nia Jax, defending the WWE Women's Tag Team Championships. I get they've been teasing Shayna Baszler and Nia Jax as like rivals, and now they're a tag team, I guess. I mean, it's an interesting tag team because they're both ass kickers, quote unquote. I mean, Shayna's the more legit ass kicker.
Right, but kayfabe, they're powerhouses.
So, do you continue this dissension, between Bayley and Sasha by taking the titles off of them, or what? Like, what do you do? Because to be honest, I can't pick a winner because I don't know what they're going to do. So, what do you think could happen or should happen?
Here is one. I'm going to give a little praise to WWE because either result I'm good with on this. I think either one makes some sense. However, I do want Sasha and Bayley to be together longer. I want them to have some tribulations along the way, ebbs and flows until the ultimate explosion, but I don't want that to start now. So I want Sasha and Bayley to hold on and have to stay together and continue to hold the titles. I'm perfectly fine with Nia and Shayna not being able to coexist and continuing that feud. I think that feud has some interest if Nia can, be competent in the ring. But I'd be okay with the other thing too. I mean, one of the things that the women's tag team division has really lacked is, well, a division. It's like one team on each brand. And so, but I don't want them to put Nia and Shayna together to win the tag team titles, and there still just be one team on NXT, one team on Raw, one team on SmackDown, and the champions. It's the same problem, just with a different tag team champion set. So, I want them to put together, 3 or 4 teams per brand, or at least 2 to make it, noteworthy. But I'm going to pick Sasha and Bayley for the reasons that I said.
Yeah, I think Sasha and Bayley should keep the titles. I mean, you keep that dissension going with them. But if they're going to drop the titles, they need to drop to somebody that are actually ready to take them off, that you can actually believe are going to beat them. And then that kickstarts their Mania feud. Or, in my opinion, the match should be at Mania. But, yeah, Sasha and Bayley, I agree. I totally agree with you. 100%.
Cool.
Next match, you have the Universal Championship. Triple Threat, Bray Wyatt, Braun Strowman, and Roman Reigns.
I hate this match. There's no reason why Roman Reigns should be in there. There's no reason, frankly, that Braun should be getting a rematch. I mean, this is one of the things I hate about WWE. When there's no need for rematches, they have rematches. Even Monday night, there's no reason why Sasha, who won Asuka's second match of the night and lost clean, even with her friend's attempted interference, should get a lumberjack rematch the next night. There's no reason for it. And there's no reason why Garza should be facing Montez Ford the next night. And that, I feel the same exact way here. There's no reason why Braun should be there. So the only thing that saves this for me is that this solidifies Braun and Bray reuniting, 2 heels against Roman. That's how they put him down. He still looks strong because he gets beat by 2 monsters who also get the help of Alexa Bliss, who is the tie that binds them together. Again, I'm writing a story that is not particularly elaborate, but is too elaborate for recent WWE history. And again, I'm doing it again, people. I realize I'm doing it again. I know I have a problem. But that's what I want to happen, so that's what I'm going to call. That Roman loses, Bray gets the pin because he keeps the title, but with Braun and or Alexa's help, and definitely with Alexa's help, and Braun either helps him outright or is at least confused as to where he stands in life.
I agree. I don't care for this match at all. I don't see why this match has happened literally a week after SummerSlam. I don't see why this pay-per-view needs to happen a week after SummerSlam. I don't know why they decided to place it the week after SummerSlam. I have a feeling Roman will win because it seems like they have zero faith in The Fiend or just Bray Wyatt as a whole. I mean, the guy was over. I'm not going to say over as fuck, but he was over, doing the Fiend gimmick. They have him drop it to Goldberg in Saudi Arabia for literally no reason. That was stupid and shouldn't have happened. And they put it on Braun by happenstance because Roman, is conditioned, and now Roman's back. So I don't know. I mean, it's one of those things where I'm going to pick the Fiend to win, but I wouldn't be surprised if they give the title to Roman.
I don't think anybody can ever be surprised if Roman wins the title, but I'm going to stick with what I got. I mean, yeah, I'm just sticking with what I got.
Yeah. Next match, you have Apollo Crews defending the United States Championship. It's Bobby Lashley. I mean, this could be interesting because, you have 2 guys, very different styles. So it could work. It's kind of like going back to, to the Finn versus Timothy Thatcher. You have 2 different styles, so it could work. It could and it couldn't. But I'm interested to see these 2 because I've never seen these 2 wrestle before.
I am too. And anyone who's known me for a long time in the wrestling community knows that for years I've been talking about MVP being one of a list of candidates, but a leader of a faction, which included Bobby Lashley, Shelton Benjamin, and Apollo Crews were 3 of the people that I always put in my scenarios, or often put in my scenarios, but always Lashley, always Shelton. So this is one of my little cockamamie things, but this one, it's actually close to coming true. Granted, after 3.5 years of talking about it. But like I said before, where I don't know why there's a hurt business if they don't have gold. So I'm going to go with Lashley. He's 42, they're building him up to be a killer. I could see them sticking with Apollo. I wouldn't blame them for doing it. I think it's actually sort of cool and kind of nice, but I just think I think that Lashley actually does need something. And I don't know what happens with Apollo after that. I mean, I would have no problem with him, and Lashley sort of trading the title off a couple times so he, stays up there and is believable, because I want Apollo to have a good, solid career. But, Lashley's not getting any younger, and him against Brock Lesnar probably will never happen. And even if it does, it's not going to be what anybody thinks it's going to be. So, yeah, I want Lashley, and I want the Hurt Business faction to have some gold. It matters a little bit, and the U.S. title matters more than the 24/7 title. You're
right. I mean, it's like, you're called the Hurt Business, but where's the title? Like, where are your titles at? The 24/7 title it doesn't mean shit. It's a comedy title. It's just there to not really pop a rating, but I guess just to kind of make people go, oh, it's fun. Like that's a fun. This is the fun part of the show.
It was fun for 3 weeks, but I know what you're saying.
But yeah, if Lashley doesn't win this, then what's the point of this group?
It's also a really good time for Shelton to look like he's helping Apollo by keeping MVP and Shelton Benjamin at bay. Did I say Shelton before? I meant Cedric. And Cedric does something to help Lashley win, and does finally, he finally falls prey to the recruitment or makes the right decision and joins the Hurt Business. So yeah, that is part of my scenario as well. I omitted that earlier.
Yeah, I mean, I'm going for Apollo because I think it's weird because Lashley's kind of been given a lot, but he hasn't been given enough. If that makes sense. Like it almost seems like they want to do something with Lashley, but then when he's kind of put into that spot, they're like, we're gonna just kind of take this away from him. So I'm going for Apollo, because I like Apollo. I think Apollo, again, we both agreed on one thing. We're glad Apollo's in a spot that he's, in a spot that actually is meaningful, and it, gives him TV time. So yeah, I'm going with Apollo. So far, those are the announced matches for Payback. And I'm on Bleacher Report, so I'm just going by the rumored matches. We don't have to comment on rumored matches, but I'm just going to tell you what the rumored matches are. Jeff Hardy versus... we could, but, But Jeff Hardy and AJ Styles for the Intercontinental Championship. Jeff Hardy won the Intercontinental Championship from AJ Styles last Friday on SmackDown, which, the better part of SmackDown. I thought it was a good match. I like the story it told, which Jim Cornette reviewed the match, and he said it was a good match. He didn't hate anything about it. One thing he pointed out that I thought was pretty interesting was he said that, they were hammering the idea that Jeff was hurt, and he thought that was going to handicap him, but that actually gave him more in the match. That actually made him better in the match. And I thought that was interesting. So
yeah, that was a clever turn. In a company that hasn't done much clever in a while, with the exception of the Firefly Funhouse stuff.
Yeah, and I like AJ. I'm a mark for AJ Styles. I'm a mark for Jeff Hardy, and I like the fact that they went out there and had a great match. And
I'll tell you what I like. I like AJ with Joseph Parks. I know that it's just Britt Baker and Reed. I mean, I know it's the same thing. But I like that. I like that dynamic, and I think that dynamic deserves a title with prominence. I don't think that WWE knows how to do that sort of non-title kind of comedic but top-tier kind of writing. So I think AJ needs a title to continue that thing with Joseph Parks, where he's like Reba and he's like Britt Baker. And I don't think that, again, a word I don't like using, but Jeff doesn't need the title. He won. It was a surprise. AJ can get his revenge. He can, he can cheat. He can do like the Guerrero, steal and cheat and whatever he needs to do to get it. And, so I think that match probably will be on the card, and I think that AJ should get the title back.
Yeah, and I agree. Jeff is actually both Jeff and AJ are at a point where they don't really need titles to be over. Especially Jeff. Jeff, at the end of the day, Jeff always, and it seems kind of weird saying this because, there's no fans in attendance, but when there were fans in attendance, Jeff would still get, one of the better reactions from the crowd. Jeff's over, his merchandise sells, you see kids, you see women and children, wearing, like the armbands and the shirts. So, Jeff's over. He's one of the few guys that are over. AJ, again, another guy, AJ's over. And I agree with you, because I love the inclusion of Joseph Parks. Because it when AJ has somebody to play off of, it makes him more interesting. When AJ is by himself, he's still fine, but he's one of those guys like The Miz who needs somebody to play off of. When he had, Anderson and Gallows, it made him interesting because he had someone to play off of, someone to, do his heel shtick to. Now that he has Joseph Parks, it makes him more interesting because AJ as a heel works. So now he has somebody to, verbally abuse. And Joseph Parks, it's ironic because he's this big guy and he was a Biz for a long time. And it works because he's this big guy taking all this abuse from this guy that he can easily, crush like a grape. So that's what makes the tandem work, because Joseph Parks has these great facials when he looks so befuddled and scared of AJ Styles. So
yes, and that can be a story. That can be a match one day too. I mean, I don't know if Joseph Park has one more match in him, but I think he said that he does, and why not? At some point, he blows up and gets sick of AJ's shit after 5 months, or even at WrestleMania, if they don't want AJ to be in a top tier story, that could still be a story in and of itself. But yeah, no, I everything you said, I agree with. AJ on this one, and actually, I think that I don't think that the OC ever made AJ interesting. I don't think he made them interesting. I don't think there's anything interesting about them. He's more interesting in the two segments with Joseph Parks than he or they were together in the 4.5 years or however long they were together in WWE. So, I'm all for this pairing. I've been enjoying it so far. I thought the permanent marker thing I thought that was really funny.
I thought that was funny too, when he just tries to wipe